Thank you all for coming to talk today. We're here to talk about The Secret Life of Girls from the parent perspective. Yeah, I see this show as happening probably 8th grade, maybe 9th grade, but I think there are implications down to 7th grade that young people will understand, and even all the way through high school and beyond. Any of us who have ever lived through adolescence, I think, have seen some of these issues and lived through them ourselves, possibly. What are some of the issues specifically that the show brings up that you feel as parents might resonate specifically in your children's world?
Oh, I think the technology issues are big issues for all of our kids now, and that the amplification of the social divisions becomes very visible during the show, and those are the same things that are going on every day, and sometimes as parents we're not privy or we don't realize what's going on with the cell phones and some of the other technology issues.
For sure. So I like to ask when we do talkbacks what bullying is. What is the definition? I think we all know it, but what words would you put in a sentence or two to explain what is bullying basically?
We've defined what bullying is that it's somebody trying to gain power in an unhealthy way or an unsafe way. And so those are great discussions in our home because I have two very vocal kids, opinionated kids. I'm glad that they have a voice, but they also kind of run a little bit different from the middle in the sense of being artistic and being articulate. And so those are the kind of, I think, rejections or discussions that we have is, why am I not understood? Why does somebody assume what I mean? And so again, just going back to how do you see somebody getting power in a healthy way? How do you see somebody getting power in an unhealthy way? People are safe, they're not safe. Those are the discussions that we have, and then we bring it back in our home of, you can't keep somebody else safe unless you're safe. And so you're responsible for you and your reaction. But bullying is real, but for me and in our home, we really do look at it as either getting power in an unhealthy way or responding hopefully with power in a healthy way.
How do you think the show deals with parenting in a situation where children are experiencing bullying? Does that have any impact on you as a parent in what you do next in your own lives?
Yeah, I think one of the parents who's not on stage is Stephanie's mother. And Stephanie's mother is definitely one of the key bullies in the play. She has insecurities because of her relationship with her husband falling apart, and so she uses her insecurities to feed her bullying of her daughter in manipulating her, controlling her, not letting her see her dad. And you see Stephanie explode at her on the phone. And so Stephanie's just modeling what her parent has taught her, that in order to meet the security needs of belonging and acceptance, I've got to go exert my power over somebody else so that I can belong. It's not going to happen naturally. So I think that's one of the prime examples of bullying, is Stephanie having to cope with her mother on the phone all the time.
Absolutely.
And then there are two other parental characters that are visible on the scenes. We've got Abby's mother, who's trying to do the right thing and trying to make sure that she's talking to her daughter and trying to keep track of what's going on, and doesn't always quite hit the mark with her advice.
Yeah, she does a pretty good job. I mean,
she does a good job of trying to diffuse the situation and reminding Abby later on that she's excluding people. And then the other parent that's visible,
Sutton's mother,
who comes in and seems to reinforce some of the hierarchy. So the fact that they've got a Stephanie who's the captain of the team, and that everyone should look to Stephanie to get their guidance. She's the compass, she's the leader, and sometimes that's not good. She also reinforces some of that by bringing ribbons for the girls, and it can be inclusive or exclusive depending on how it's done.
And that was seeing Sutton's mom, I think, really captures a lot of what's going on, even in early elementary. What we've experienced, or I have in parenting, as with my daughter, even my son, is that a lot of the grouping is parent orchestrating. And so it's not really even the kids. It's these parents that feel like there's this track that they've got to socially put their child on to the exclusion, and they discount really great qualities and interest in other children. So that Sutton's mom was a really like, yes, this is happening, and this has been happening for a long time.
That was a very real life example.
She's so real.
It made me flash back to little softball, starting off with everybody having to have the same pink socks. And I put Hannah in the different socks, and they were like, what did you do? I'm like, I don't know, I'm a dad. She needed socks here.
Oh yeah, no, there's a forum to
I got
it.
the look.
You have to have it down, you have to have the tribe. I mean, through dancing and all these things I've done with Azalea, I mean, I have literally driven to, a hotel room to recover costumes in the middle of nowhere.
Right.
I mean, it has happened. We all fail. This is a very hard thing, parenting. I worry very much about, the suicides and things that come along with these kids that you really are young, and this is your life, and something happens and you're shamed on social media, and all of this snowballs on you. I mean, I was bullied when I moved high schools myself, very badly, and there was nothing in place nobody even paid attention then. They didn't want to know. I was just new and from Texas and didn't look like everybody else. That was it, So, I didn't really do anything. But it makes you definitely more compassionate, and then you look at those things in those groups, and when they do accept you, you usually say, I'm good. I don't want your invitation.
You see that exact same example in the play, right?
Yeah.
Where they're all trying to fit in. And Stephanie's playing one off another.
For sure.
Just to be able to.
You don't want to be the victim.
You
You're
like,
duck it.
Exactly. Duck. You're not the one being focused on, so you can be safe, I guess, from the ridicule.
No, you can be safe, right? It doesn't go to you. So then you think, I've dodged it.
Right.
Like when Anne-Marie says, don't tell her that, her serves weren't as good as yours.
Right.
Don't tell the Red Queen.
Yeah.
So it's tough. When you have someone like that in your life, I think young kids today have that person that squares off against them, and they have a whole year of this. I've heard it time and again, and it is so tough. It's heartbreaking.
Does seeing a show like this change your conversation with your own kids about bullying or their social situations?
For me, I think that it's an eye-opening, it's like an awakening, because and within my family that, at school they've been bullied. And I think this show really brings different views, perspectives from all around, and I think it's very important for parents to see this, and schools and kids to come over to see this show, because it's just like, it's something that really teaches you about how bad really bullying is, what's going on. Mm-hmm. And for me, it affected me emotionally, and also made me think that this is something that I would want for all my family to come and see. Mm-hmm. So it's very good for the kids to see what's going on and help them to really to be in touch, what bullying is wrong, and to be more sensitive to other people's feelings, other kids, not to be so self-absorbed with their own feelings, to focus just not on themselves but also on others. So I think it's something that I take to heart.
What is your impression of the talkbacks that happen after the show?
I think it's incredibly important. I think it gives some genuineness to the show, in the sense of, particularly when you have peers or you have adolescents in the audience. And for me, that was just something that I enjoyed, was hearing teenagers ask questions or say yes, that happens and this is real, just as a reminder that we're not talking about something very sterile and just an example, but it is really happening and it's real life.
We were thankful for the talkback as parents, because after watching, we knew the show, but until you see it on stage, until you see how brutal some of the exchanges are between the girls,
right,
and how hard it was to watch not just your own child, but every child.
Every child, each character.
And we had conversations about the after. I mean, the talkback was important for me as an adult processing what happened on stage.
And the fact that the kids are adding so much to the conversation, or we had the teenage boy that said, oh yeah, this happens too, and it happens in different ways, but it's fully like this. I love that kind of thing because they need more of a platform.
That's the point, I think, is that the talkback really, as much as having a professional lead us through the content, it gives people an opportunity to respond in the audience that something has resonated with them. And I think some of those moments are people that have a bullying experience and they're able to maybe finally have a voice and say, that happened to me. So for that, just that, I think the talkback is incredibly
Increasing
important.
human compassion. I think our world needs a lot more of it.
And even the people that didn't speak up during the talkback, some of them spoke up afterwards. And that might be something that'd be interesting, because you're not in the audience, but people I know saw the play didn't speak up in the audience, but it gave them a chance to address some issues that they'd been thinking about and processing quietly afterwards. So they didn't feel quite comfortable enough to say it in the audience, but then they knew it was normal, right? That's one of the big things, the big message, that being different is normal, and they understood that they're not really any less normal than anyone else on the stage or in their actual
That
real
helps
life.
at that age so much.
Yeah, I think for the parents too, having the talkback's important, because there is this message in the play that you're transitioning. You're helping your child to gain confidence, gain capability, gain that sense of self-worth that they can tackle this on their own, and the parent can't fix it. And I think you hear in the talkback, that message comes clear. Oh geez, all these other kids are talking about having the same experience, and they're sitting right next to me, and I can't fix it, right? I can't change that circumstance, but what I can do is I can give them tools so they can address it, they can meet it head on, and maybe be that person that stands up and stops. And usually it only takes one other person, right? It only takes that one other person standing up,
light that
coming
fire.
alongside. Now you've got 2, maybe you get 3 or 4 to stop it, right? So.
It's nice to hear that the conversations continue after the talkback is over, in the lobby, as people are driving home. One of the things that I've experienced as a parent is that a lot of times after the show, it's really raw for my kids, and they don't really want to talk about it, or maybe they're not talkers generally. But I've had on 2 very specific occasions, once after Secret Life of Girls and once after the show Don't You Love Me, where months later, many months later, my kids came to me and said, Mom, you remember that play you made us see that we didn't want to go to? Remember that play? Remember what happened to that girl? That's what's happening to my friend right now, and we don't know what to do about it. And he's gathered his best friend, and they've consulted, and they've tried what they could, but now they're coming to me and say, remember what we learned at Dallas Children's Theater? I need your help. We need to know what to do. And it put me in a position to be able to kind of stop and think and reflect on what I remembered from the show also, and then know what next steps to take so that I could contact that young person's parent, and in one case, contact a teacher and try to get some action in motion to get this kid some help. So the kids remember. They remember through storytelling, whether it's their own stories or the stories that they're seeing in a theater or movie or story, anywhere. We know that there is an incredible power to storytelling, and this is a way that it's somebody else's story, but it could be meaningful to them. But I've seen it change what they actually do and give them some power to stand up and do something about it. I think there's nothing like theater to really learn and feel and know what an experience is like, and I think that has power to change our lives. Thank you all for participating.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.